everyone, and we are back with another shiplog 0227, still covering Star Wars Vader, Dark Visions. This one is for issue 4, Hotshot. Now, I think this one is probably one of the most common backstory kind of things that we probably have seen with most other things, with how it all lays out. We've, in the Star Wars universe, we've seen, people go after rebels, go after rebel bases, destroy them, rebels going after the Republic or the Federation's bases. I mean, it all just depends on what really century we're in, but the bad guys, but how everything is basically laid out. I mean, we've seen kind of the same story of how it's either one of them destroys one base or one of them destroys the other. To an extent, we have this whole thing like the Hatfields and the McCoys, the Montagues and the Capulets. I mean, back and forth. I mean, we have it everywhere. Or like even another one off of Claws, we have the Crumb Buckets versus the Pikes. I think that's what they are. That's kind of what this whole thing is with the Rebels and the Republic. I mean, both of them are back and forth against each other, and that's kind of what this one is. We have a gun runner smuggler guy that our main character for this chapter, it jumps back in time for us, and it's him as a little boy, and his dad climbs out of the sewers with all of these guns, and they find him, and they say, why do you have these? And he tries to give them some bogus story, and is sitting there, and the boy starts out very confident. If dad starts running, then I will shoot them. I have that power. I can do it. I have that capability. Now, here's the problem with it, though, is his dad finally does start running off, and he does start giving him the command, now, shoot somebody now, and it will give him a better opportunity than what happened. But basically, this little squad of stormtroopers walking around town ended up gunning him down, and we're left to pick up the pieces with this boy. Now, from there, we jump into the future, where we have the recruits of part of the X-Wings actually go into it, that, hey, this is the reason why. Now we have some more, and we did learn it actually in chapter 2. And to an extent, I do feel like all of these chapters let in something to each other, but they're not really connected. But we do know that TIE fighters are a bit slower, but they are very well protected. They do have a good turn radius and a bunch of other stuff. But when it comes down to what the superior ship is, the X-Wing is the more superior ship when we see it. And so that's why there are more X-Wing pilots than virtually any other pilot, because with the Rebels, that it is a very good ship with speed, with the capabilities of each individual thing that you may have to do in a ship. X-Wings are by far the most superior out of that. That's what this chapter kind of tells us with that. Now, he tries to plan, what will I do from here? And he asked one of the guys, which I guess is like a captain of the rebels, and says, how do I get a spot on X-Wing? How do I get in one and go from there and not have to worry about it? I want to do all this stuff and make my accomplishments. And from there, starts going to the recruiting office and actually just climbs into one of these X-Wings. Shows them how easy it is for him to fly it, to do all this other stuff, and ends up saying, hey, this is what I've always wanted. This is what I've always dreamed of, and you will find no better pilot than me because of how many times I had to drive and do all this stuff as a child in the sewers trying to smuggle these guns. Now, that was just kind of a medium one from the small ones and other things that you would originally have driven through the markets. But he does show them kind of a little bit of his skills with the X-Wing and what he's capable of. He says, this is everything that I believe I am good at. And I am very good at driving, not so much at ridden work or anything else. And flying is obviously one of the better things that I know how to do. So we jump forward in time again to where Darth Vader is asking about his ship, checking it out. And his ship is actually getting worked on, which his is the kind of TIE fighter. It's got a different name, but his has more of the bent wings going in instead of just the straight TIE fighter wings. And we have where we get a little imagery of that. Not very much. Everything is just kind of like a sprinkle. Or, something else crazy is going on. But with this one, we do have all of that stuff. We have all of where Darth Vader is getting his ship worked on, which kind of reminds me of the last chapter with the Doctor and everything, where he basically went and tried to get himself worked on at the sick bay, and then just to go from there. So it is kind of a weird thing seeing how his life is just so busy and mundane, and how he's waiting for his upgrades, but it just seems like a boring life, especially how he handles it. It's always in the same way. But anyway, hopping back into this one, we do have where he is asked about his plane and is basically waiting here. Now, this is where we do jump back to the past again, not so far back, but a good chunk, where we find out that basically the rebels want everybody that is capable to come help them out. We have where it's kind of in a sense like Mulan, where they say, hey, you're going to have to go through this training and you're excluded because of XYZ, either too poor or whatever this other stuff is. And it really comes down to, I guess, just a matter of opinion. But we have here where the guy argues with one of the other captains, colonels, lieutenants, whatever it is, and says, you want your best pilots on this. He goes, I'm not the best gunner. I never will be, and I'll never stand by that. But I am basically the best pilot that you have. And no matter what, if you put Darth Vader in my sights, I will take him out. As simple as that. There's nothing else. I will handle this business. And going from there, that is basically what we have out of this chapter. I mean, we have the next part coming in, part 2 of this episode, but that is basically the meat and bones of our problems in this, of why the different characters need something to latch onto, and especially this guy, our other no-name guy, of what he's going to handle, and having those years of smuggling and being able to practice flying and everything, making him the best. Now, when we come back after our little break, let's just stay tuned to see what happens, because he will either be the best or he will be the chicken of our worst. So anyway, stay tuned for more. Hey everyone, and we are back with this podcast. Shiplog 0227. And we are still covering Darth Vader, or Star Wars, Darth Vader, Dark Visions, and we are in issue 4, Hotshot, and this is basically part 2, because you're here after the break. So, anyway, where we left off is we have a smuggler kid that couldn't take the shot and his dad suffered the consequences and died after that. We also have where he has shown his skill to work his way into how good of a pilot he is to actually join into the Rebels X-Wing squadron without actually having to wait the 5 years to do it, and is also jumping in the future. We are seeing that he is going to be one of the chosen people to fly some of these X-Wings into Darth Vader's ship to actually handle the problem and destroy part of the ship's pilots, whatever it is, just to get in and actually mess with, screw it up, stuff like that. So from here, we do have where the best people for this mission were picked, and he is one of them. And as we actually get into it and we start our mission, we have where Darth Vader asks, is his ship done enough that it can be flown, on top of all the repairs and other things that were happening to it. I believe the reason why he took it in the last time was for upgrades, maybe more missile slots or something like that. But we do know that it is kind of his iconic ship, just because it has semi-folded wings compared to the regular straight TIE fighter wings. Now we do know that from this, we are waiting to see what will happen out of it. What will happen in the future as we go from here, because obviously, off of the story's title being Darth Vader, we know that shit's gonna hit the fan at some point. I mean, there's not really any arguing with any of that because of knowing who Darth Vader is, So we do have kind of all the stuff that we cover with this episode and everything. How he is doing that. How this kid is going to supposedly take him out. And he does bring up that the reason why with the rebel captains and stuff, the reason why before it wasn't so good was because of him not being able to take his shot or shoot his shot, whatever you want to call it. Which I feel like in some way, the future him seems like the shooting your shot bit kind of seems like it refers to dating, when that's not really what this issue is supposed to, cover in it. But that's just what it feels like. It feels like, hey, we have that really good quote that is like, you miss all of your shots that are never taken. And that's what this is. I mean, that's the perfect rendition quote for this episode for us. You miss all of your shots that aren't taken. So we have where this kid flew into the hangar, basically. Like, he's the best pilot. He does cause a ruckus, does blow up a good amount of people, and is just kind of going from there. And we are following the story, trying to figure out what all is going on, what's going to happen, and where exactly we will go from all of this stuff. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of what we're going to handle, what we're going to cover. Now, the problem in this one comes into this guy kind of showboating a bit. I feel like him getting in and destroying part of the TIE fighters did open up a good opportunity. But we do have out of this where Darth Vader's vengeance is already open. He's already gotten out, and we have to worry about all this other stuff. Now we have where his captain says, hey, I'm going to open up the opportunity for you to get Darth Vader. Other people say, hey, we can work together. Let's do all this. And it almost seems like this boy has a mark on him because everybody else is cursed with it and basically dying. The captain, distracting, knows that he's going to sacrifice himself so that the boy gets the shot to shoot the ship. To shoot Darth Vader's ship. He does get to clip it a little bit, but that was before. And we're still left with, hey, like, you're not doing anything. Then we go into where the rest of the squadron kind of is trying to help this one guy out, being the better pilot that he is. And one by one they get picked off. I can't remember how many there are, but there is a good chunk. And he is kind of the only one left. And it comes down to, he gets Darth Vader in front of him. He says he's going to kill him and plans on it. The real thing that happens in this one, though, is he gets him in his sights and can't take the shot. That is probably the worst part about this one. He can't take the shot. And as this chapter refers to in the title, hotshot, that is not a title that people are bestowed upon them for anything less. I just recently watched like the Hawkeye stuff, and Hawkeye, to an extent, you could consider a hotshot. Somebody that can be ballsy about making their mark. Now, this kid obviously can't really do that. But he's proven himself enough of a pilot to be able to do all that stuff. And I think this is really another part in this that we see that maybe Darth Vader might have a little more extra quote-unquote magic with the Force than what we think. He is kind of able to know what the boy's going to do. One way or another, it almost seems like he connects with him over the Force or via the Force, and that he has problems that are not going to get handled because of this. All because the boy cannot see, he just can't see it. He can't see how to get out of it. And he goes back to that time where, with his dad and everything. And I think that is another thing that maybe Darth Vader he can kind of take your nightmares and superimpose them upon you. So I think that's really, really what he is doing. But he scares this guy so bad that the guy decides to turn tail and just fly off. He can't shoot Darth Vader. He doesn't know what he can do. And is obviously kind of having a stalemate of it. So they decide, the boy decides that he's going to fly back into the hangar and let them know and go from there. So we get a couple things that happen. The boy does fly back down, gets in the hangar. People start cleaning it up and doing all this, and the boy goes to the bathroom. Now, we do come into it where part of the stuff is happening, and while all this stuff is happening, we do have shots fired, into the base that they have, because somehow, and I don't know if Darth Vader, psychopathically connected, a rope to him, or something like that, but he just cannot get free of anything and ends up losing it entirely, to cover all the stuff with this guy. Now, again, this is where the guy can't take the shot either. He knows that he's going to do it. He decided earlier that he was going to do it, and it is just not happening. He cannot get himself basically under control enough to do any of that. And in that aspect, it is making it a very bad thing for that. But as the guy comes back with his tail between his legs, claiming to be the best pilot and getting to do all this other stuff, was when Darth Vader learned of his plans and everything and took it upon himself with the other planes and such in their little home base area that they have, to actually go over and destroy this other guy's stuff. So he ends up getting in there and ruining this guy's day, and not exactly, but as of course the rest of the base as well. Like I said, I think they really just followed him, but the other guy gets to the bathroom and hurls and comes back out and is like, hey, I'm ready to continue moving forward, and realizes that most of the people in the mouth of the space are dead. And that's where we get left up to, is we have a really good scene where the guy kind of superimposes a part where it's Darth Vader's helmet face thing, and then the boy holding his head, and he says, I just can't do this or whatever. Now out of that, we get that, showing this picture of both their faces kind of shoved together, one in Darth Vader, one in this, and the boy just saying, I can't do it, I can't take the shot. It really speaks a lot, I think, with everything that we're covering, that you can't be too cocky when it comes to fighting Darth Vader. You can't really do very much when it comes to fighting Darth Vader, but you have to make sure that everything is prepared. And I think that's the problem with most of the people we've covered in this Darth Vader Dark Visions book. If it is anybody that Darth Vader has an opportunity of basically harming and killing, not these ones from issue 1, but everybody else basically is, and nobody really wants to fight against him, step on his toes, anything else. And that in of itself is where we're left at. We're left at, what else can we do? You're not going to be able to virtually cover anything else with this. And not being able to take the shot is just as bad, because we saw the consequences last time. This boy's dad, was gunned down. In this instance, him getting sick and the first wave kind of coming through, and then him running back out, and we assume he probably got gunned down, just kind of shows the just desserts of this series, honestly. So anyway, let me know what you think down, or when you comment back or anything else like that, or email the show, and I will let y'all know about more fantastical stuff coming out, as well as other things that you can listen to, other nice podcasts. But until then, I hope you'll listen to all of our old stuff and go from there. But thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was another great show for you guys. And as always, I will catch you guys later. See you next Tuesday.